Hey everybody, good evening. I don't have Glenn in tow yet, so he should be here soon, I'm assuming. He said he'd be here in a couple minutes, so we're going to go through and say hello to everybody. Tonight we are talking about Roswell, so maybe the aliens might have gotten Glenn, I don't know. But in any case, we're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, we're going to talk about what's in my coffee cup. I have Waking Dragon with Indian River Roasting Company tonight, so let's check out what they do and be right back. Here at Ted Davies Artistry, we take coffee seriously, and so does our sponsor, Indian River Roasting Company. It's fair trade, organic, and they're artisans just like me. The only difference is I use watercolor and ink and they use coffee beans, and I enjoy it all through my day. So do yourself a favor, go to the description when you like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Find Indian River Roasting Company's website, use the promo code CaffeinateTed2021, and save 10% on your purchase. Yeah, so use CaffeinateTed2021 promo code, save 10% on their coffee. When you get to their website, IndianRiverRoastingCompany.com, you'll find that in the description, and they will hook you up. Okay, we also have John Cashman, the Cashman's Comics in Bay City, Michigan, and we are going to see their promo real quick. Hold on one sec.
And every day I wake up feeling the same way now. Need to find something to believe. Every night the dreams we made, they're haunting my head now.
Yeah, check everything out that John's doing down in Bay City at cashmanscomics.com. He ships nationwide. If you're lucky enough to go to the store in Bay City, say hi to Petey the dog. Check out everything that John sells. He ends up selling a lot of stuff for independent artists and creators like myself. In fact, all the books that I have offered, he also sells there. So check out everything that he's doing. We also have the gentleman that's missing right now on our show, Glenn B. Fleming, is kind enough to give a sponsorship of Comics Unlimited. Check out what we're doing on Comics Unlimited. They've got some really great things. You can find them on Amazon under Glenn B. Fleming, and check all that out that they're doing. Also, we have an amazing Da Vinci of resin that has been doing some great stuff for us, and I want to show you that promo. Hold on one second. Yeah, check out everything Damien's doing with O Toys. He's awesome. He does everything for all my stuff that I'm doing right now. So he's been fantastic, as you guys can tell. All right, and we're also proud affiliates of Rising Tide Broadcast Network. Check out everything we're doing 7 days a week. Education and entertainment is what we do. So check out everything. We're a group of creatives that help creatives build their business. And we got to get another slide there. Somebody needs to, Dan, maybe you can send me one over, but I know we're going to be changing a couple things around anyway. So it's forever changing. So I don't know. So I don't know what's going on with Glenn, but active online right now. He said he's going to be a couple minutes, so maybe something's going on with his computer or whatever. But we can talk about Roswell. It's an American thing anyway, right? So I want to say it's a world. It affected the world really, but it is an American. It would happen on American soil. So I want to say hi to everybody. Donna, Carl, you talking about grub rub? Apparently, I told. She says hi to everybody. By the way, Dan, well, we wish you a happy birthday. By the way, young man, happy 29th. Brian, good to see you. Sarah, it's always good to see you. And just going down the list. So, okay, so real quick, Roswell. So in 1947, we had a bit of an event in Roswell, New Mexico. And there's a couple things that most likely it happened. If it really was aliens, it probably did happen because 2 years prior we had the A bomb go off, and it was in the general area of that desert. So I'm assuming that I'm going to take the stance of, like I normally do, devil's advocate. It is definitely something that happened. So there was a crash site, and there was a little bit of a cover up, and I'm going to go through what I see, and then you guys can argue with me if you want about that. So, but let me show you one of the things here. So once it happened, so it was in July, and once it happened, it was kind of crazy because when it happened, nobody was looking for what had happened. So that's the first thing. So what I mean by that is in 1947, we just got out of the Second World War. We're still in heightened territory, really. Got through the Second World War, and there was, you would always think, especially with an Air Force base, there would be, if anything crashed within the vicinity, you would definitely be looking for it. So I don't know if that is right off the bat. That's the first thing. One of the local ranchers I was on his property. Forgot the name now. I know that's really good about Glenn because he's usually good about bringing up the names in that. But the rancher ended up looking all the debris. I think it was something like 3/4 of a mile, the stretch of all this metallic material. I forget if it was 700 yards wide. I'm not sure, but it was quite an impact, whatever came down. And he ended up getting his truck and driving 75 miles to Roswell to tell the sheriff, who then, if I'm not mistaken, the sheriff ended up calling the place that was in Roswell. So I don't know. Here he is. I think Glenn's coming in now. I think. So in that, when you've got people that are driving 75 miles, especially in 1947, that's a haul way back, and they're in the middle of nowhere, driving that far, and then the police end up calling the Army straight away. Then, after all of that, they end up something it goes all over the wire, right? And there's a local radio station that picks it up as well. So the local radio station ends up having, I think he had the guy on, if I'm not mistaken, the rancher. So they're talking about the flying saucer crash and everything else. There's Glenn. Goulby Fleming. Cool.
Late?
Huh? What?
Am I late?
Yeah, you're late by like 13 minutes.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. I just want to make sure you're okay. Everything's all right?
Yeah, it must be this clock thing, this time thing. Sorry about that.
Well, that's all good. Everybody's wondering where you were. We thought we were all making fun of you, thinking you got picked up by aliens or whatever. So,
well,
are you going to change your name on that? Or are you going to still be Ghoul? Are you going to still be Ghoul?
I'm just going to.
Are you still going to be Ghoul B. Fleming instead of Glenn B. Fleming tonight? Or
I've been called worse.
You've been called worse? That's good. Glenn L. That's a good name too. I like that.
Oh,
Glenn L.
God.
That's kind of cool.
Okay, right.
You good? Okay.
Sorry about that, everybody.
It's not a problem. Nope. I was worried about you.
It's quarter past 11 here now.
It's 7:13.
Oh, it's all this changing times, right? Anyway, okay, right. Where are we?
Okay,
go.
so I was just talking about we just started because of all the sponsors and stuff. So
Right.
first off, let's wish Dan a happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Dan.
Dan Holyfield. It was I know he's like 29 or 30 or something like that, but he's working in that factory for so long he looks like he's,
Yeah.
50. So in any case, so we were just talking about the crash, and I was talking about the rancher. The rancher ended up going out looking at the property, looking at the mess, and that was interesting because nobody knew that the thing came down. So there was a terrible lightning storm in that the night before,
Yep.
and he went out the next morning to see if there was any damage, whatever. And he ended up he drove 75 miles to his friend who was the sheriff, 75 miles to Roswell. That's a
Wow.
hell of a drive back then.
Yeah, yeah.
In 47. I mean, these cars weren't, there wasn't any highways, I don't think. There might have been a 2-lane highway maybe, but
There probably aren't highways there now.
oh, there are. There are. Anyway, so he gets there, he tells him what had happened. So the sheriff calls the Air Force Base,
Yeah.
which at the time isn't a very big place, and then the rancher goes over to the radio station and starts talking to him. And then they run this thing in the newspaper. So I don't know.
But he didn't go there till 2 days later, did he?
Did he? I thought it was the same day. Okay.
No, he had the debris for 2 days.
That's right. That's right.
There was a thunderstorm going on, as you say.
Right.
And there was this tremendous flash, and he recognized it as something that wouldn't be caused by lightning.
Yeah.
So he went out there to check his. I think he was a sheep farmer, wasn't he?
It was a massive
debris.
It was massive, 3/4 of a mile long. I mean,
he said it was tinfoil rubber and thin wooden struts and things like that, or what he thought we would.
Yeah.
And then he took it home, and I think he buried it somewhere first.
No, he he had it in the house because his son recalls that they had little I-beams and all these other things, these
but
aluminum.
Isn't that Marcel whose son saw it?
That's right. That is right. The sergeant or the gentleman that, let me put that up real quick. That is right. You're right.
Brazel is his name, or Brazel, or whatever you call it. Brazel.
This gentleman's son.
Yeah. Well, Brazel, the farmer, who the explosion was at, he got all the debris. He found all the debris, and he thought it was tinfoil and wooden struts and things like that. So he collected it all up, and I don't know where he buried it somewhere. He put it under some tarpaulin or something, and just
really, because
he was going to use it for something else. And then it was 2 days later that he went to the sheriff.
Okay, that makes more sense.
And then Marcel got involved because he was part of the intelligence, Army Air Force intelligence, I think.
Yeah.
And he was called out, but the balloon story went out almost immediately. The weather balloon.
Did it? I thought that they had to retract the statement that they made because it went across the wire.
I've got some information. There was a public information officer called Walter Hout, and he reported that the 509th Bomber Group had recovered a flying disc.
Right,
and that was written. I mean, it's like if you imagine several 100 yards of tin foil, how does that suddenly not be a flying disc if that's what you saw? Do you understand? Do you understand what I mean?
Paul, Pop Culture Avenger just stopped in. So hi, just want to say hi, Paul. I don't know. There's a definite difference, and that's the main thing. I was watching a couple documentaries on a few of the people. The mortician that's in town got a phone call from the Air Force Base.
Yeah, how do you preserve bodies and things like that?
Do you have anything that's medically sealed? That's the size of a child's coffin?
Yeah.
What? Well, just in case, because in the future we might have a pandemic, is what they say. I'm like, whatever, dude. Whatever.
Well, it's crazy because you've got all these people. Now it's like when have you noticed how a lot of reports of UFOs are from policemen and airline pilots and military people? These aren't, I don't know about police, but these aren't necessarily stupid people. Military pilots aren't stupid, and they report what they report.
They follow orders. I mean, that's their gig.
Exactly. Well, I've got a quote here or a paraphrase from Marcel.
Okay.
He wasn't, after the actual initial reporting of this, he wasn't allowed to speak at the time.
Right.
And he said it was a weather, he had to report it was a weather balloon, but the General Ramey, his boss, he
Yeah.
says, General Ramey and I knew otherwise.
Was that the guy in the other picture?
Yeah.
Ramey? Is
Yeah.
it? Let me get onto that so you guys can see him.
Yeah.
I mean, they're both, is that them together or no?
I think the guy with the hat is General Ramey. I'm not sure.
All
But
right.
I tell you what's funny, what made me laugh about that photograph is in somebody's front room, isn't it?
Yeah, right. Right. Well, the
So
other thing is,
so they've
too,
got an alien spaceship in their front
Yeah.
room.
Marcel, I heard his son talking about it recently, it was within the last 20 years.
Yeah.
He said that his dad, when they took pictures of him, he wouldn't look in the camera away
Right.
with holding on to this tinfoil balloon thing because he wanted people to know that he was getting yelled at off camera
Right.
by the sergeant, whoever it was. And then there's this redhead sergeant that they keep talking about, this lieutenant, whoever it was. And he was quite the heavy from what they were saying. He was pretty volatile type of guy. And he was, they're going to end up picking your bones up. And then, if you say anything about this to anybody, he was pretty adamant. And several people had that relationship with this guy. So, I mean, I don't know. There's a lot going on.
The thing that struck me as well with this photograph that you're showing now and the previous one of Marcel is the way that they're laughing. They appear to be laughing. Why? What? I mean, why would you laugh? They're laughing, aren't they? Why would you do that? And but there's the story of Marcel when he took some debris home to his son. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And he could scrunch it up.
Yeah.
And it popped up
and it
to reshaped
the same itself.
Shape.
Yeah.
As you can see in that Hatch cartoon I sent to
Yeah, right. That was brilliant.
Which is based on that. But it's too this. I mean, we'll get to Operation Mogul, won't we, later?
Yeah, right.
And all that kind of thing. But there seems to be a clampdown immediately on this. That it was immediately a weather balloon after the initial reporting of a flying disc. Now there's I've not seen either.
You don't have an emergency flight to Fort Worth and then to Dayton, Ohio. You don't do that. And then they go to Washington as well with a part of it. Come on.
Yeah.
Eisenhower was briefed on it. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah. There's a lot going on there. It was funny that it was only a couple of weeks after Gordon Arnold reported the initial flying saucer phrase.
Yeah.
This incident happened.
Yeah.
He was up in Washington State, which is a long way from Roswell, but he saw the 9 discs. I think. He described them as like saucers skipping on the water. That's where flying saucer came from. And but 2 weeks later, one of them is down. It would seem.
Yeah.
And I was going to look before I realised I was actually should be on there. Didn't the Enola Gay fly out from that area on its way to Japan?
I don't remember that. Well, they were the only nuclear facility in the country, in the world.
Well, it will have been there then. I'm sure that the
so
Enola
that would
Gay,
make sense if I was surveying this world. It would make total sense to go there.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, because like I said to you last week about Paperclip, if people were, when I say people, if extraterrestrials were watching us, we're not a threat as long as we're planet bound.
Yeah.
But at the end of the war, we had nuclear weapons and we had a delivery system.
Yeah.
And it was only 15 years after the war that Gagarin went in space.
Right.
And then
correct.
Then 25 years later, Armstrong's on the moon. So
you're here's the thing. They just got out of a world war. They were just starting to get, and back then people didn't question stuff.
No.
I mean, if they told you shut your mouth, and that was across the, they were in a war for the last 4 years, if not plus. How many lives that they lost, and people were not. And a lot of it, right now, a lot of it is the cover up is our fault too, because we didn't challenge any. I mean, a lot of people didn't challenge it. The status quo was like, whatever. I got a good job at Ford, blah blah blah. I'm going to have 2 weeks off during the year. Who cares?
But
You know what I mean?
now.
We're still the powerhouse. You know, we're the strongest people in the world, and all this other stuff. And that was, you know, now that would have thrown a whole nother monkey wrench in the works. Oh my God, we've got to. We're really not that strong. We've got this source from outside the planet now coming here. I mean, it would be an absolute cluster. There's no, yeah, there's just no way.
I think with social media as well and things like that. But I've said this to you before, where social media is a fantastic tool with all the information that is at your fingertips, literally. But even less people use it. So if people had to go to the library or whatever to get a book, they wouldn't bother.
Yeah.
And now they've got these phones that was like Kirby's mother boxes, you know.
Yeah, right.
And they can access anything you want, just about.
Right.
You know, they still don't do it. So people, you know, when they released the Warren report with Kennedy's assassination in 1964, one of the guys on the committee was a bit worried about putting all this information out, the 26 volumes of evidence. He was worried about that. And
Right.
Alan Dulles, head of the CIA that Kennedy had sacked, who was on, you know, looking into his murder, said, "Don't worry, people don't read."
Right. They don't.
So they put the information out there, and nobody read it. I think I'm the only person I know that's read the whole thing. Right. So they don't read. And now I think people read less now, because the more things are available to you, the more you tend to put it off.
Got it. Did you know about the British Rocket Society proposing to build a spacecraft that used nuclear bombs to launch into orbit?
No, didn't know about that.
Come on, man. Dan says it's true.
Well,
it's his birthday, you know.
Well, you know. You should be on here.
Yeah, right. We're not that crazy. During the war, the Japanese Navy released over 9,000 high altitude, right? And they made it to the U.S., right? A couple of them did.
Yeah, I wrote an article about that in Undercover many moons ago.
That's right, you did.
Right. I think it was there was the question. Somebody raised a question about, were any American civilians, apart from the people working on Pearl Harbor, killed during the war on mainland United States? And the answer was no. But the true answer is yes, they were, and it was because of those bombs, those balloons that the Japanese were sending over. They were like the V1 Doodlebug. They would just land where they landed.
Right.
You know, they were terror weapons, really. Nobody knew where they were going to land. Right. They were just sent over.
Yeah, we had back when I was a kid, we had an outdoor game that we played like that. It was called Jarts. And it was basically you threw a dart up in the air, hopefully to find a circle. And there was a couple kids who got killed because it ended up, you know, hitting them in the head. Yeah, it was pretty bad. So anyway, yeah, it's just messed up. But this is the beginning of, at least in the 20th century, this is the beginning of the era of mistrust. For me, you're seeing a lot of this is before Nixon. This is before, you know, Vietnam. This is before any of this stuff.
Don't forget, Nixon was Eisenhower's vice president.
Yeah, but I mean, but Watergate wasn't. I mean,
no, but Nixon was there in the 50s.
This is a cosmic Watergate, really. I mean, when you think about it. So, in fact, Watergate wasn't even built back then. So, I mean, this was like a major. This could have changed everything, and not just to mention the social dynamic, the religious dynamic, everything. It would have changed everything. 50% of the people would have been, no, you know, that's not true because we're the center of the universe. The other 50% would have been like, absolutely, we knew it, of course. Yeah. And that would have been it. That would have been it. Nobody challenged it or anything else. I don't know. I don't think they're ever going to have full disclosure on everything, but
I don't think they can.
Yeah, I really don't. And I think that, you know, we're seeing it now that people are waking up to certain things, but, you know, we're just as much to blame for the conspiracy cover up as the people that prop it. So
I think that people don't care. As long as they've got their TV and their beer.
Well, that's it, right?
They don't care.
And people are exhausted. I mean, they were exhausted back then. Like I said, they had a great job, blah, blah, blah. They just got back from the horrific side of the war, if they did come back. And, that was it was an easy fix. People ended up forgetting about it, and that was the end of it.
Well, we're ruled by fear, aren't we? Because it's like you say, if you've got a really, really good job, why are you going to start shooting your mouth off and lose your job? You think, well, sorry, I'll just toe the party line. I won't say anything, but I won't go against it. And that's what people do. They get swept up in it, and who can blame them, really? I mean, if you're in fear for your life or your family's life and a really good job and then being cancelled, as a lot of people are these days for different reasons, but why would you jeopardize all that?
A lot of it too is a factor of it's so unbelievable. Some of the people that were there actually, if I'm not mistaken, the mortician that was called, his name was Davis, I think. And
no relation.
Of course, what's that?
No relation.
I don't know. Maybe somewhere down the line, maybe. In Wales, they call us Davis.
Yeah, I call you Davis as well.
Yeah, well, you're odd. You're British or whatever. Anyway,
no, English.
I know. Sorry, I stuttered. Sorry. Okay, so you've got this huge thing that just happened, got covered up, people swept it under the rug. But Davis was the mortician that they called, and I don't know if he was called onto the base or what happened, but he went to see his friend that was a lieutenant nurse who had just gotten on the base. Do you know about that story?
No.
Okay, so she ended up, he got there, military were everywhere, but he got in somehow. I guess he knew, it's a small town, whatever. He got into he was part of the officers club or whatever on base. So he had a card, local, whatever it was, businesses would pay in, and they would be able to go into the local officers club at the Air Force Base and have dinner or whatever. Well, he was pretty well known there. So anyway, he got in and he ended up seeing her for a minute. It was at the hospital. And this is when these bodies and everything were there. They had brought the bodies to the hospital first. And she was just freaking out. She was, and that's when these two military guys, there was a black gentleman, military man in charge, and then this red guy. And the redhead guy was off he was pretty volatile. Anyway, so he says, you got to not tell anybody about this. They're going to find your bones in the dirt if you blah, blah, blah. He's really specific on it. And and Davis he ended up doing a video on this. You can check it out on YouTube. He did it, I think it was posted 2014, but I think it was before. I think they did it back in the 90s or 80s. And he talked about the specifics of what happened. And they ended up, he talked to the girl or the woman later at dinner at the officers club quietly. She never finished her dinner, he said, and that she talked about the hands, the arms, everything on these beings. And she said the stench was unbelievable. She said they had to actually evacuate the hospital because of the smell. Well, these things have been out there for 2 days in the desert, So they ended up having a quiet meal, or whatever, drinks or whatever. So then he didn't see her after that. She ended up getting transferred. And she wrote a note to him with the different mailings of where she was going to be at another base. So he ended up, and it was just a quick note to let him know what was going on. He wrote back to her and he said, I hope you're doing all right and everything else, blah, blah, blah. And he was concerned for her, but he wanted to make it quick because he knew that they would probably be looking through the mail anyway. And he got the letter back a few weeks later and it said deceased.
Ooh, wow.
So then he found out that she was killed in an airplane crash, military airplane crash with 5 other, I don't know if it's doctors or females, what it was, nurses. Anyway, and he thinks that was a cover up too. He thinks that was a whole, because she was too involved in it. And he says, I don't even know if she died. She might have just been relocated.
Were the other people involved?
I don't know. I'm assuming they were. I don't know though. And this is based on what he was saying, and I'm just relaying what I saw in the documentary. But that was pretty eye opening. And the thing that shocked me, he has a contract with the government agency. He's, so if any people that passed away on the, what do you call it, on the Air Force Base, any officers or private, whatever, a heart attack or whatever and died, they would take care of all the services. They had all the contracts for that. So this guy is, he stuck around. He wasn't going anywhere. He told the guy, I don't like this because he had some balls. He said, I'm a civilian. You can't do anything to me. He's and he said that to the military guy, the redhead. And that's when he said, well, he says, they'll be picking your bones out of the dirt, is what he said. And that was the only time he was ever threatened.
Wow.
But he ended up leaving after his meal with this nurse. His dad got a phone call from the sheriff, who was a good friend of this guy's dad. And I guess they were, old high school buddies and that. He says, your son's in a lot of trouble. You're going to have to straighten him out because he's going to end up getting himself hurt. So his dad called, it's just it's a soap opera mess, But yeah, I don't know. I mean, these guys kept quiet for so long.
All because of a weather balloon.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And that's, I don't know. It's just.
Well, didn't Marcel's son say that his dad brought debris home and he gave him some because he said, this is really, really something, this, Sonny, whatever his name was, keep this because this is really something. And then later some people came around and took it all back. Or Marcel said, I've got to take it away and give it back.
Yeah.
I'm sure Marcel's
he told his son, he said, we don't talk about this anymore. He left for 2 days. And when he came back, they were all, he was all, Dad, what do you, he brought home this I-beam with a bunch of purple printing on it. Looks like hieroglyphs. And he was talking about that.
Yeah.
And they were all like, Dad was telling me about da. And then 2 days later, his dad came back and he's like, we cannot talk about this anymore. And they didn't talk about it for, I think, until he died, until like a week before he died. They talked about it and so they would get the stories straight again in their minds. His son's a doctor now. And he stayed in the area too. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a really weird thing. I don't think I would stay in an area like that. I know that they have ranches and everything else to take care of, but.
Yeah, but where are you going to go? They're still going to know where you are.
I guess.
I find it interesting that I think it was something like in the month after Roswell, there were about 800 sightings.
Mm.
And
that I can understand. I mean, that's mental. I mean,
yeah, but it's passed on. It's passed to us that, well, because there were 800 sightings proves that Roswell didn't happen. Well, I don't understand that logic.
I don't either. If anything, it mandates it.
It's the way they twist things. Why? What does that mean? Maybe there were 800 sightings. Maybe there were 2,000 sightings.
Mm-hmm.
But because there was a lot of them, they say that one wasn't real. Why don't they just say the 800 weren't real?
Well, I guess that that proves a really good point about the act that they just released in 98 or whatever was what's it called?
Don't know.
Where they released all the paperwork, all the classified
Freedom of Information
Act. I think that they had to go through something like 800 different UFO things over the course of the last 60 years or whatever, 50 years.
Right.
And then they stated that it was 600 of them were what we consider legit. And what they mean by legit was they can't explain it. That's it. And all the rest of them were, forget
that's
it.
Like that's like I told you a while back in Project Blue Book.
Yeah.
Where
right.
At the end of Project Blue Book, it says something like the U.S. Air Force and powers that be couldn't identify. So they identified all the evidence, and it was swamp gas and weather balloons and planets and stars. But they couldn't explain 2%. And you think, oh, well, that's not a lot. But when you get the Freedom of Information Act going, you find out that 2% was 37,000 sightings.
Yeah, right.
Which sort of changes the complexion of it somewhat, doesn't it? Because
I don't know.
Because 2% to 37,000 or equal in 30 is a lot.
I mean, the economic side of it, though, for Roswell was huge. I mean, the cottage industry that built off of this thing
Yeah,
is Americana at its finest. I mean, there's
yeah,
so many people that have made money on this idea, that's how the government again pokes fun at it and says, "Oh, it didn't happen," but
yeah.
you look at all these loonies that are coming in, looking at, I mean, whatever.
Well,
It's just,
they did that thing with Lee Oswald and the Kennedy thing. They said that because he'd been in the Marines, he could fire a rifle.
Dan, I think Dan might be right. Ted, you might be confusing it with it might have been.
Right,
I'm
yeah,
not sure.
okay. Yeah,
But that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's just crazy. What were you
yeah.
saying? I'm sorry.
I was saying about Lee Oswald. They said that he could have pulled those shots off in that time because he'd been in the Marines and he'd fired a rifle. Well, what does that mean?
He was in the building. He was breathing air. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Everybody else in the building was breathing air too.
And they said that he was an ex-military person, ex-Marine. Well, so were 15 other people in the building. It's just ridiculous.
I don't know if there's any, if we'll ever really know. I mean, even with the Freedom of Information Act, like Dan was saying, it is 75% of it was blocked. Even the paperwork that they had was blacked out. So it's, we're not going to really know. I mean, it's just, they're just, it's just an absolute.
Well, the interesting thing was that film that Ray Santilli released.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the story about that, when that was on the TV. Can you not watch it tomorrow?
Yeah. And that's great. But that's true to life. That's very true.
Well, it is true to life because it is life.
She was a silent generation too, right? She wasn't the baby boomer. So
people don't care because
the majority of people don't care.
You're having a nice glass of wine and having a nice evening.
Ignorance is bliss, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be bothered by any of that stuff.
You remember, you saw The Matrix, right? The movie The Matrix.
I saw the first one.
Okay, so it's in the first one. The guy that turns code on all of them and says, "Hey, just make me into like a rock star or somebody great. I know this thing's, steak's fake, but it tastes so great. Just make me into a rock star with a lot of money and everything else, and you'll get all, you'll get Neo's information, whatever." And that's basically the kind of it. I mean, ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
Pop
culture says there is a significant tourist attraction.
Still.
Yeah. And there's a UFO museum there as well.
Yeah, big time.
That's got some really interesting.
They just had their 50th anniversary in '97. So what was that? So now what is it? 70 years now?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it's still going strong. So I don't know. And it all boils down to it. Does it change my life at all? No. I say that every show. Is it going to change my? No, because I'm not surprised about it.
It does. It does change your life, though. It does. It does have an impact.
How?
Because, well, imagine if this stuff was revealed.
Yeah.
And that would change your life.
That would. But this bait and switch of it never happened. It doesn't change my life. I still believe that it happened. I still believe it happened.
Yeah.
And it's got to be. It's interesting that they're so specific on where they flew, Fort Worth and Dayton, Ohio.
Yeah.
I mean, they've stated that they've got the wreckage in that, or whatever happened in Dayton, Ohio, and they've had it there for decades.
Yeah.
Whether they do or not, whatever. But it's so specific. It's like, come on, why Dayton, Ohio? Why wouldn't they just keep it out? And why wouldn't it be in Area 51 where we were talking about last week? Whatever. I mean, it just seems kind of, it's almost overkill. It's almost overkill.
I think the reason it's probably in Dayton, Ohio is because that's the designated area to take other stuff as well. So they could only take it to one point, and that was the point.
And they had the best facility for it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we can beat a dead horse, but I do think that it did happen. And I think that there is a definite cover up from the old generations. It's so old now, old news, that it's really irrelevant because it's so obvious that it was there. I don't know how you can't think it was there, and you can trust your government. I don't mean that, but
yeah, I'm always intrigued with like I said before about the 800 sightings. Mean that one didn't exist. I'm always really, it makes me laugh, but it makes me sad as well
Yeah.
that the government will something will happen, and they'll throw something at you that is so obviously not what happened. Like, this guy goes out, there's an explosion, he goes out to investigate because it's on his land. He finds this strange tinfoil stuff. He shows the Army Air Force the next day, or the next 2 days later. Then the report is put out that they've recovered a flying disc, and then the next day it's a weather balloon. How could these people be so incompetent?
Well,
so
and that's
stupid?
what I was saying before you got here. They weren't even looking for it. If he would have kept his mouth shut, they probably wouldn't even have said anything.
Yeah.
They probably wouldn't have searched it because they didn't have the.
There's still been a crashed disc sticking out the hillside.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. That's the real rub of it.
Yeah.
So you've got all these test airplanes and the rockets here. You've got all the rockets and everything else that they brought over, the Nazi scientists, like we talked about. They're all out there or in the vicinity.
I can say in that area, yeah.
They're in that area. Okay. Yeah. And now you've got this, and you're not looking for the thing that just happened. You had a local, all due respect, rancher. I was going to say Yahoo, but he was a really hardworking rancher, I'm sure, who came to you guys and said, hey, I mean, come on. I don't buy it. I don't buy it.
Well, I think that you said it at the beginning that we probably won't ever find out.
No.
I'm just looking there. Here we go. After the war, the Enola Gay returned to the United States, where it was operated from Roswell Army Air Force Base, New Mexico. There you go.
Yep. Sarah says, when you come to the States, Glenn, again for the 21st time, are you planning to visit these kinds of places, or more about meeting people, or both?
Yeah.
We got to go out there now, man. We got to rent a Mustang convertible.
We do. We need to go down
drive Route 66 out. Yeah. We got to do it.
We got to do it. Yeah. And we'll go and take some pictures and get in trouble. And
that's right. Find some flying saucers.
I'll get banned and all this kind of stuff.
And we'll deny it. That'll be it. And we'll just deny the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's and the other thing was too, where's the stuff now? Here's one thing I did find out recently. They found there was a gentleman that it's on the History Channel. You guys can check it out. He found a remnant or a stone, actually a small stone that had almost like a rune writing on it, and it was a very smooth stone. It had the sigil or the marking on it was very specific, and the way it was milled and everything was very precise. Anyway, they call it the Roswell Stone, and you can check it out online. But anyway, the guy that you've seen, the guy, an ancient astronaut, he's got the really tall hair. Yeah. He's the Greek guy. Fantastic. I love him. He's great. He ended up interviewing this guy, and this stone, man, it's got it's pushing out a ton of energy out of the stone. It's crazy. Certain parts of it are stronger than others, and then it's magnetic. It spins when you put a magnetic magnet by it. It spins like a top. It's crazy. Wow. Anyway, and he found it in the vicinity of the crash site. He had been going out there for years, and he found it. He said, "I can't believe I found something like this." He still has it. And he gave them permission to scratch the back to see if it would, and they did scratch, but there's no way they can make the same markings that were on it because of the type of rock it is. And it's not from this planet, of course. It's from, it's not naturally formed here. Very interesting stuff. And that was recently. That was like a year ago. So they're still finding material from this wreckage that is a legitimate something to think about too. So, I mean, regardless of how many papers are blocked out and everything else that we can't see, there's still some definite people that are having. I wouldn't be surprised if one of the I-beams with the hieroglyphs is what they were talking about shows up. I wouldn't be surprised. In the years to come.
I'm not sure whether it was Brazil or Brazil, whatever his name was, that guy, that farmer guy, or whether it was Marcel or both. But they did say that there were symbols on some of that tin foil. not letters, but symbols
Correct.
that they
Right.
haven't
And
seen.
one of the guys that Davis said it was like hieroglyphs. That's the only way I
Yeah.
can only, or
Yeah.
not Davis. It was the other. It was the kid. No, I forget who it was. It was one of them. But he said that what we saw, that's the only way I could describe it. It was symbols. It meant something, you know. So pop culture said that would be an awesome road trip. Yep. Dan's like,
Yeah.
Dan says, well, Roswell Stone. Then Donna says, let's rent a bus. Okay. Let's get a bus. We'll do it.
Yeah.
We'll do it.
Let's all go down.
I'm not driving though. We'll get a driver. We're not,
Yeah, I've done that one. I'm not
we'll
driving.
we'll write the whole thing off.
No.
Right.
I told you about my trip years ago.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
RV for 2,000 miles in 4 days. No.
It's too much.
No.
It's all right. I like staying in a hotel in it.
Yeah,
and
I like to see. I tell you, my memories of that trip are white lines, just white lines on the road.
Yeah. Well, we could turn this into a podcast on the road podcast. We could, truth mongers on the road. That could be a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah. That'd be
we might need bail money though. We might have to start a Patreon for bail money. Just saying, guys.
Listen, I've got to get over there. I don't know if I'm allowed yet. There's all this
I think you might be. I don't know. There's got to be. There's people have been coming back. I see Canadians over here all the time.
I keep seeing all these really rich people, these boxers and pop stars coming over from America. And anyway,
I mean, it's it'll lighten up here soon. I hope that once everybody.
Look at that. Grant's put white lines, cocaine. No, there was no cocaine. I've never had cocaine.
No, I don't think we're doing that, Grant. But I've got so much writing material now. I'm just going to start writing. Forget Thelma and Louise, man. It's Ted and Glenn. That's it. We're going.
What do you think about this this alien autopsy thing? I know the film we've seen is obviously. Let's be generous. It was a reenactment.
Yeah.
Not a fake. It was a reenactment.
Yeah.
But I just wonder whether it's the deception thing, obfuscation, isn't it? It's like, is the one really? It was the one, and have they made that to debunk the real one? It's one of these. It's these mirrors again, isn't it? It's smoke and mirrors. You don't know what's going on. You wonder what this information is they put out. Like I said before, that because it was silly that there was 800 sightings in 2 weeks after this one can't be real, and I can never quite follow that logic.
I don't know why the bait and switch again. You're back to this. It's so ridiculous. Why would that have anything to do with it? I don't. And they were saying possibly there could have been 2 flying saucers that hit.
Yeah.
At that time. So I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, from what I understand, what I've read on a lot of these UFOs, which makes a lot of sense to me, is they charge during electric storms. It makes a lot of sense. They take charge up when there's lightning storms. Makes a lot of sense to me.
Or from pyramids.
Or, well, and it sounds crazy, but, or from the, maybe from the Black Knight, satellite, who knows? Yeah. But I've read articles where people have said they've seen crafts, especially around very strong thunderstorms. So that would lead me to believe that the technology isn't perfect. It might be more advanced, but things happen. I mean,
yeah,
I don't know.
Accidents happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's far-fetched to think that these, there wouldn't be crashes. It tends to reason. If you've got thousands of these things flying around, some of them are going to go down eventually, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Technology is technology.
I think you can base that on the fact that these people are around, I keep saying people, these beings are around. They're made of flesh and blood and bone.
Or something. Or whatever.
Something similar.
They're carbon-based, maybe, or they might not be. Maybe they're like we talked about earlier. Maybe they're just drones. Maybe they're AI. I mean, who knows?
I think they will be flesh and blood, as it were, because of the craft that they're flying. There'll be different kinds of. They seem to be solid, metallic type of vehicles. So
they do. And I think that they're different. I think the different technology with different species, it would make sense.
Of course, yeah.
I said that prior. I don't think it'd be like you just go, to a Ford flying saucer dealer in the universe and just pick one up, have one built for you. I don't think it's like that. The technology might be like that. They might share that technology with each other, but the ones that are more advanced. But
if the thing is, to me, is that if these beings aren't similar to us in flesh and bone, that kind of thing, why are they so worried? If they were what you might call what do you call it, exotic, and they were made out of gas or something, well, the stuff that we have wouldn't bother them, would it? So they must be like us. They must be able to be destroyed like we are. Otherwise, they wouldn't be bothered. They wouldn't care, would they? If our bombs and delivery systems and space flight didn't interfere with anything they did, they wouldn't be bothered, would they?
Yeah, it would be like an anthill. It wouldn't matter. It's like us to ants.
It just wouldn't apply.
So there's that's the one thing. Okay, so who are we harming? Are they worried about themselves? Or are they worried about our own? Are they from this planet? Are they just they just haven't left? I mean, are they just it's a long term, maybe they're not from another.
I don't think they're from here, no. But I think that it's like I said to you before earlier, that in 1945 we as a species on this planet for 1 million years or whatever it is, or that's debatable as well, we were suddenly able to get off the planet with nuclear weapons, and nuclear weapons are pretty serious, aren't they? Right?
It's death in a bottle. Yeah.
So if you can get off a planet with that delivery system and the actual bomb, you live somewhere else, whether it's close by or a long way away, they would be a threat. They could be a threat. It's like if you lived on a desert island and 2 miles away, say 2 or 3, 4 miles away, you could see another desert island, and it was too far to swim. You would think, maybe I could make a boat and go over there and see what's there. And then one day, before you've made your boat, you wake up and you see a boat coming from the island to you. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you'd be worried, wouldn't you? So if you're observing a little planet in the middle of nowhere, and then all of a sudden it's got spacecraft and nuclear weapons, they're a threat.
It's a threat, yeah. And maybe they're just the Watchers, like we talked about. They're in medieval paintings. I mean, these saucers are not new. I mean, whatever they are, they're not new. We've always had something watch over us. Call them angels, whatever you want to call them. But I think that's maybe they're guiding us, and they're keeping aware of what our technological side is.
I'm not sure whether they're actually guiding us. I think they're just watching us. I just think because they're doing what we do. They're doing what we do.
I understand that, but there's got to be some interaction, because there's just too much technology we've got now. I mean, it's just like we talked about. The last 100 years has been incredible. Incredible. There's got to be. And whether we're reverse engineering the things that we have now of theirs, or we've got to deal with them, or whatever.
Or maybe we just crack the code, like we said about the wheel. Once you've got a wheel, you've got the first wheel, and then you've got the space shuttle wheel. It's just a matter of time. And maybe with the technology, maybe it is back engineered alien technology and all that kind of thing. But if you think about it, we've just cracked the code. What was the first computer in the 40s? It was as big as a house, wasn't it?
Sure it was. Yeah, it's all tubes.
And now we're talking via computers now. It's nothing. It's nothing.
We've got more power in this than Reagan had launching the
SDR.
the nukes or whatever he could have done. So I don't know if we're going to be able to stretch this out to an hour and a half, but this was a good breaker on this. I think it's a good.
Well, we should mention Project Mogul.
Yes.
That was released, some files were released in 1994 about that. And it was a military surveillance program with high altitude balloons that had bodies on them mixed with dummies, and it was called Operation Hydra, High Dive.
Yeah.
And that was recently entered into the mix as to what Roswell was about. So it's
all right. Yeah,
how much do you want to put in this mix before you say, well, yeah, actually, it was a flying saucer? What I mean? It's like there's always a bit more.
I don't know.
And then they release those films, don't they, of of,
The
of the
autopsy.
guys throwing the dummies out the back of the plane.
Yeah,
And,
I mean, yeah.
it's like, oh,
Here's the thing. Why wait that long to release
yeah,
such a silly thing?
yeah.
I could understand back in the 40s they were worried about the Russians, whatever, blah blah blah. Okay, whatever. But come on, I mean, it's
Another
ridiculous.
interest,
It's
another
ridiculous.
interesting point to this Roswell thing is that President Eisenhower was informed about it. So
Yeah.
so what they're saying is President Eisenhower, the most powerful man in the world,
Yeah.
was informed about a weather balloon crashing in Roswell, New Mexico.
And they brought the parts to him.
And they showed him. That's really interesting.
I mean, come on, really?
So, yeah, get the guy who found them and tell him to get on a plane and get to the White House now. I want to see that tin foil and bits of wooden struts and the bit of rubber. I want to see that. And then ring that mortician guy and ask him how long he can preserve a body for. That's my
that Dan's got a good
question.
point. Yeah, Mogul was that. It was tape recorders that were set up to listen for nuclear testing. That's what those balloons were.
I'm not saying
They're very sensitive, and I get that.
I'm not saying Mogul didn't happen.
Right.
But
I don't think he's saying that either. He was just letting us know what. Yeah. I don't think he's saying that either. But I agree with you. I just think that it's ridiculous that we had to wait 60 to 70, 80 years to find out something that simple. I mean, come on. I mean, it's one thing. Look how long it took for the Blackbird or whatever it was. Look how long it took for that. It flew for 20 years. We didn't know anything about it. Yeah. Come on.
It's scary, isn't it? But it's just like I said, I'm not the president of the United States, and obviously I never will be. But I would hope, let me change that. I would hope he's got more to do than take a report of a downed weather balloon.
Yeah. Well, and it's, and I think that they have a responsibility to the general public. They do. Not to have disclosure in some regards because of the mass hysteria. I mean, we saw what happened just War of the Worlds, just the radio. We saw what happened that night. So, and that, that when it all boils down to it, whether you've got something that's released because the government has to release it now, whatever. They're just, if something did happen, there's got to be a way to release it into the consciousness of the world so that people know, okay, this is what happened. We're being upfront with you. But
I think that web of intrigue is tempered by the fact that they can't tell you because there's other things involved. And that was like with, as I keep referring to Lee Oswald and the Kennedy thing, one of the reasons Lee Oswald had to die was not because of the Kennedy situation, but because of all that he knew about other things.
Sure. I mean, yeah. Well, that goes without saying. Yeah.
So if you can imagine that if this thing crashed and it was a weather balloon and they were so intent on covering it up, it was because they wouldn't want to tell the Soviets anything to do around it.
Well, that's it. And that basically they were, and that was the other thing. They said that the Russians, they wanted to throw off the Russians because the story was made up, let's say, that the saucer was real and everything else because it was one of our new aircraft that crashed. And that's what they made up this huge story so the Russians would be distracted and thinking it was a UFO, blah, blah, blah. And not thinking about that we had this supersonic, whatever it was.
I would imagine that the Soviets had a report on their desk about 15 minutes after this happened.
Oh, sure. Sure.
So, and it's the same with the moon landing. And people say that we didn't go to the moon. Well, the Soviet Union could have won the Cold War by proving that we didn't. Yeah. If it could be proven that we didn't, but it couldn't be because we did go to the moon. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah,
they would use it. Why would they go along with the plan? Why would they go along with any plan that we put forward?
I think that, and the other thing was too, is like I said, they didn't challenge anything. Americans didn't challenge. They had not status quo, but it was if the government said it, and then that's the way it was. And because they had to do that all through the war, the wars, I should say, but the war, especially World War II, they didn't challenge it. And that became a very herd mentality, and that's fine. But, we're starting to wake up now. And I think that there's a lot of strange things going on. So regardless if we're the petri dish or whatever of them just looking over us, watching us to make sure we don't blow ourselves to hell, that's fine. Okay, great. that we all have our roles to play, but just
Well,
don't
why would they care?
because it affects them somehow, because they're incorporated with us somehow.
Yeah.
Because they know that something happens to us, it will eventually happen to them some way, shape, or form. I think that's where they're at with their knowledge base and the way that they feel that the universe is. I really think it's higher consciousness. I don't think it's just us. You make comments, and I'm not insulting you. Don't take it this way, but you make a comment. Maybe they're just having a laugh. I don't think they laugh. I don't think that they have that kind of that type of humor. You know what I mean? I think that they're to a point where they're
I
so past that. It's like they're really concerned.
I think they never had that. I think they're observing us for emotions.
And that could be. That very well could be. So
They don't have that
they're
emotion.
not human. They might be humanoid, but they're not human. Maybe.
Yeah, they're not bad. They're not bad people. They're not evil or anything. They're just
I don't think they're
fascinated with our emotion.
Yeah, and why wouldn't they be? And maybe maybe they got the ball rolling. I don't know. Maybe they're part of this whole experiment. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a lot of things that it makes it really interesting. But I think that the the power in knowledge is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah,
and we need to know collectively, what's going on, because I do think that a lot of us could handle it if we weren't so dumbed down or tried to be dumbed down.
If only that most people don't care anyway.
or they don't care anyway, right? It's 50-50, right? So
I mean, if it was suddenly announced that the little green men had landed on the White House lawn, as they say, everybody wouldn't suddenly buck up. A lot of people would still think it was false. There was a guy.
Said 50. Yeah, it'd be 50-50. Right?
There's a guy. I can't remember his name now. Richard Dawkins over here, who talks about stuff like this and the existence of God and all this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And there was this religious guy was on one program with him, really Christian religious guy, and he said to Richard Dawkins, I mean, get this, he said to Richard Dawkins, if you, Richard, proved to me that God didn't exist, I still wouldn't believe you.
Okay.
I mean,
that faith is a funny thing, and everybody needs it some way, shape, or form. But I think that's I don't know. That could be very dangerous.
Yeah.
What he stated, because that could be the same with people felt that way about Nazi about Hitler. I mean, they could tell him all the stuff, but they still loved him. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
You don't. Yeah. So I don't know. That's a little dangerous. I'm not saying God is Hitler at all.
Well, look at Magda Goebbels when she killed her children.
Yes.
She killed them because she couldn't see a world without Nazis in it.
Well, that's
just
unbelievable. But again, you're back to. But I think that the fear factor too of all of it, the not knowing something is, I think, more dangerous than the knowing it. Because the fear, this has been going on for almost 100 years now, and at least in this environment. So I don't know. It's an interesting thing. Roswell's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm glad that the cottage industries have boomed up around there. I'm glad that worked out. I'm glad that people try to make a good situation. Hey, Brian, how you doing? Trying to make a good situation out of something that is could be very tragic. And I'm really surprised that the people stayed. The ones that were threatened, the ones that I'm really surprised about that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
well, we didn't get into it, but the Majestic 12 looms its head over this, doesn't it?
Oh, sure it does.
Vannevar Bush and all.
Maybe we should do Majestic next week. You want to do that?
Yeah,
because I think that's a good segue. Majestic 12 is definitely, people will be interested in that.
Yeah.
If you don't know about it, do some research on it, because it is awesome. It's not awesome, but it's the knowledge of it's pretty awesome. It's kind of scary in a way, but
especially when you think, was it the president? Is he on NJ7 clearance?
Yeah,
and
right.
NJ12.
Right.
I think they call that. I think they call that plausible denial, don't they?
Yeah. Well, and that's
But we can get into that. Yeah, that's that.
And that's good, that's a safety valve, in a lot of cases. But I don't know. I mean, I think we kind of got there. What do you think?
I think so. Yeah, I'm just sorry I was late. I didn't.
No, it's good, man. No, I want to make sure you weren't, abducted or something. I just want to make sure that you're okay.
I'm surprised when my internet hasn't been closed down.
Well, what time do you have right now? Is it?
It's 8 minutes past midnight.
Right, that's the right time. I'm on an atomic clock here. I love this watch, but
Yeah, but you're 5 hours behind me. I usually start this program at midnight.
Yeah, it's
And
7 o'clock our time.
and it
Yeah,
started at 11.
no,
Yeah, because it's 12 now.
it's 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time right now. It should be 1 o'clock there, 1:08. Did you guys next week or this weekend? We're going back.
We
falling
went
back.
We went back last weekend.
There you go. That's where it is. That's where the rub is.
So when you go back next week, we'll be back. I'll be back to midnight again.
Correct.
Right.
So now we figured it out. There you go. Well, thank you for stopping in, man.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got a lot going on this week. Let's see. Tomorrow, what do I got tomorrow? Well, I don't have anything tomorrow, but on Friday we've got the premiere of From the Trenches of Hollywood coming up at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That should be awesome. It's going to be with me and Craig Hall. That's pre-recorded, so you guys will be able to listen to it. There's all different kinds of things we're going to be talking about. Those are only about a half-hour show, so that's good. And it's more of an intro of what we're going to be doing on the shows. I think you guys are going to enjoy that. And then, of course, Drinking with the Davies at 7 o'clock. We're going to have the French Martini. Don't ask. I don't know, but we're going to have it. I'll be posting that probably later tonight so that you guys can check that out. But that'll be 7 o'clock on Friday. And then at 9 o'clock on Friday, I'm going to be on, I believe it's Creators Outlet. Creators Outlet is interviewing me for the book Grimm 101, book 2. Excellent. And we're going to be talking a little bit more about that. I'm going to run the promo real quick. If you haven't checked it out on Kickstarter yet, I am going to put the link here in a second. I would appreciate you guys checking out. And if you want to invest in it, that'd be great. Thank you for everybody who has liked and shared it. And we'll be right back. Give me 1 second. Let me find it here. I know it's in here somewhere. Give me a minute.
Most of my life I've felt alone. But not here. I suppose, living next to a cemetery, your neighbours are always close. It is peaceful and quiet, but not lonely. In fact, since my first visit amongst these graves, I've felt a presence. A calmness that fills the air and surrounds me like a gentle morning mist. That's how I know he is there. It's a feeling of being watched from afar. I wait in silence as well, until we meet.
Yeah, that's a great video. Love the voice. Helen's got a great voice, man. Thank you again for you doing the first voiceover in the book, and now she did the second. Thank you very, very much.
Well, we're looking forward to the audio book.
Yeah, well, and that's something that we're going to be talking about. We have to sit down and actually go through all that and make sure that you guys are,
We're going to have to do it quick because we're getting all these things piling up, aren't we?
I know, right?
We need to sort out.
I know. Well, we'll talk. I'm going to actually, when we end this, we'll talk for a few minutes after we end.
Like getting on air on the right time.
Yeah. It's all good. You know what? That's life, man. That's not a big deal. I'm just glad you're okay.
That's live podcasting.
It is. Thanks everybody for stopping in. And I appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And, it means a lot to us that you guys give some of your time to us. Cause I know it's some of these are crazy. Some of these are crazy ideas, but
check out Majestic 12 for next week.
We're going to do Majestic 12 and stick around, Glenn. I'll be back in a second and we will talk to you guys later. Have a great work week and make sure you do something good for somebody. We'll talk to you. Thanks.